What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about overstability and understability and the difference between them and why that is. For starters, I have one neutral disc out with me today. That's the Dune. It's probably the most true neutral disc that I own. On the mid-range side, I have the Rollo, which is I think it's a 5.4 -4.1, and the Mutant, which is a 5.3 From starters, I mean, one of these looks much more triangular and one of these looks more like a spaceship. And then on the 9-speed side, we have the Virus and the Full Tilt. Obviously, there's a difference. Let's go talk about why. Now, the way the discs are made is they have a mold on the top and they have a mold on the bottom, and they basically fit them together and then inject plastic in there. What that does, it happens on every single disc because there is a top and a bottom to the mold. There's always going to be a parting line, and it's pretty easy to distinguish on this Dune. This little line right here, that's the parting line. On every single disc ever made, when it was first pulled out of the mold, there was a parting line. Now the parting line it changes how the disc flies, obviously. All three of these have different parting lines. All three of them fly very differently. Let's show you. I'm gonna go flippiest to most overstable. So when a disc flips, that means that it has the tendency, when you throw a right hand backhand, to want to kind of flip off of whatever angle you put it on and go more towards the right. When you don't throw very hard, the Rollo is actually a fantastic molder. A lot straighter. Very, very straight. And the Dune has a parting line pretty much in the center, maybe a touch higher than center. The Rollo has a very low parting line. The Mutant, its parting line is way up here. So the more in the center of the disc the parting line is, the more neutral it's gonna fly, the more just kind of laser beam dead straight. The more it goes down, the more flippy it is, the more it's going to want to turn to the right, and the more on the upside it goes, the more it wants to hook hard to the left. So we already talked about dome, and we discovered that dome really doesn't have any determinant on whether a disc is more or less stable. It's entirely determined by the rim, and the rim operates as it pushes through the air has to separate. As it separates, depending on where on the disc the parting line is, that's where the air is going to split. So if it's further down, you're going to have more air that goes up over the top, more air that kind of pushes it up underneath, which basically, as you throw it, makes the disc want to go woo, right? However, if you bring the parting line super high, as you throw it, there's almost no air going over the top. There's a lot of air going underneath, which means as it goes through the air, it just kind of goes bam. So if you've ever taken just like a paper plate and held it upside down and throw it, it almost immediately rolls over to the right. If you hold it upright, it's actually going to roll the opposite direction, because it's like throwing an understable disc upside down. That being said, I'm going to try to throw both of these identically, and as you can see, there's a great difference in where that parting line ends up, so we should see a pretty drastic difference in how they fly. I think that I am going to have to throw the Virus. If I were to throw it flat, 100% it's not going to be in frame for most of the flight, so I'm going to throw both of these on hyzer, and here you'll be able to see what they call the flip from this Virus. As I throw it on the hyzer angle, so for your angle it'll be like this, as it comes out of my hand, it has a tendency to flip up, and depending on how hard I throw it, might even get a little bit of a turn out of it. So that is where you get the flippy discs from. The more they start here and have the tendency to go that way, the flippier they are. Beautiful little flip up, kept pushing. Both have a 9-speed rim. They're very different discs. To be fair, not every disc that feels the same way is going to fly exactly the same for every single person. That being said, I've got 3 mid-ranges, and from most overstable to least understable in my bag, you can see a difference. But as far as like, we'll take my methods or my rock 3s. I have 4 that fit in that mold slot. They're basically the same starting out, but there are 4 different stabilities. And that's why I'm able to have 4 in my bag and not feel worried about it. Now, they often give understable discs or flippy discs to beginner disc golfers. Why is that? Because, well, it's for a couple of reasons. One, because it takes a lot less power usually for an understable disc to fly straight. It's also going to be easier for them to control their nose angle a tiny bit. Why do I say that? Because, as you can see with this overstable disc, the nose angle already starts up high, so if you want to throw it not nose up, you're going to have to manipulate it. However, this Rollo starts off a good bit lower, so if you want to throw it flat or nose down, you don't have to throw it quite as manipulated. You can be a little bit softer on your form. I'm going to throw all 3 of these. I want to show you what -4 versus 04 does. I'll pick that one up in a minute. And that's why they call it a rollout. That rim is so far down, as soon as you throw it, it just starts tilting. So somewhat interesting to note that the flight numbers typically tend to denote which is an overstable disc and which is an understable disc. It might be difficult with the backlight, but -3.51 versus the Mutant, which is a 0.4. So the closer to 0 those last 2 numbers added together equal, the straighter it's gonna fly. The higher up that number goes, the more left it's gonna fly. The lower that number goes, the more right it's gonna fly. Generally speaking, weights, plastic types, and the use of the disc, it varies. Last but not least, long pad for 16. I'm gonna throw both of these. I'm gonna try to throw both of them straight. I want you to notice the drastic angle of release as it comes out of my hand for them to fly somewhat similar. And that is the difference that you can feel and see in the store. When you're picking out discs and you want a disc to go straight, try to get something that feels real steady in the middle. You want it to go left, pick something that's going to be a little bit higher. You want it to go right, something with a lower rim. If you enjoy content like this, make sure what types of content you want to see next, and make sure to subscribe. You'll see everything as soon as it comes out, and it helps you out with all the giveaways. Until next time, see you out on the course.